Focus. Speed. I am speed. 1 winner. 42 losers. I eat losers for breakfast. Breakfast? Maybe I should have had breakfast. A little brekkie could be good for me. No, stay focused. Speed. Faster than fast, quicker than quick. I am lightning.
Hey, Lightning, you ready?
Oh yeah, lightning's ready.
Looking for a fast way to track what's moving online right now? Head over to Qnotables.com. It's a centralized index of notable clips, headlines, and references being shared across the community, organized for quick browsing. Use it to spot patterns, pull links, and build your own research list. Qnotables.com. Browse the notables, verify the facts, stay informed.
This show is powered by Qnotables.ai, an independent research and news archive built for people who want more than headlines. At Qnotables, we track the stories, documents, timelines, and public records that shape the news cycle. Our goal is simple: collect the information, organize it, and give people a place to research it for themselves. Visit Qnotables.ai for live show updates, archived research, news breakdowns, and ongoing investigations. That's Qnotables.ai, where the narrative gets questioned, the receipts get saved, and the public gets to dig deeper.
All reports can be found on QResearch or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here. From the Q Research Boards, July 15th, 2026. Top story: Iran and the Middle East. President Trump is warning Iran that the United States could expand its military campaign to include power plants, bridges, and other strategic infrastructure. The administration says Tehran must stop attacking commercial vessels, reopen international shipping routes, and reach an agreement with Washington. American strikes and the naval blockade will continue as negotiations remain stalled. United States Central Command has completed another 7-hour wave of strikes against dozens of Iranian military targets. The operation focused on missile systems, drone facilities, and coastal defenses near the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM says the strikes are designed to prevent Iran from attacking commercial vessels and threatening civilian crews traveling through one of the world's most important energy corridors. CENTCOM has also resumed the naval blockade against vessels traveling to and from Iranian ports. Admiral Brad Cooper says Iranian forces attacked 7 commercial ships during the previous week, leaving nearly a dozen civilian crew members dead, injured, or missing. American forces are now working to protect commercial shipping while restricting Iran's ability to move military equipment and oil revenue. President Trump has dropped his proposed 20% reimbursement fee for ships traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. The president says Gulf nations will instead make major trade and investment commitments inside the United States. Trump described the investment agreements as a better arrangement that will bring foreign capital into American energy, infrastructure, and manufacturing projects. The Treasury Department has frozen more than $130 million held in cryptocurrency wallets connected to Iran's central bank. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says Iran used digital assets to evade sanctions and move illicit revenue through international markets. Additional sanctions are targeting individuals, companies, ships, and financial networks connected to Iranian oil exports. The British government is criminalizing support for Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps under new national security powers. British officials accuse the organization and affiliated groups of directing surveillance, intimidation, and attacks against Jewish and Israeli-linked targets. The restrictions will give police expanded authority to prosecute individuals providing financial, logistical, or operational support to the Revolutionary Guard. President Trump also welcomed Iraqi Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi to the White House for talks focused on security, energy, and economic cooperation. Trump says American companies will expand their involvement in Iraq's oil industry. Al-Zaidi is seeking additional American investment in Iraq's oil, natural gas, and electrical sectors as the country rebuilds from decades of war. The United States plans to withdraw its remaining military personnel from Iraq by September 30th. Roughly 2,000 American troops remain in advisory and counterterrorism roles. Iraqi Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi says American military forces will leave while American businesses remain. The withdrawal completes the transition established under a 2024 agreement between Washington and Baghdad. During the meeting, President Trump repeated his long-standing criticism of the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Trump said he opposed the invasion before it began and believes the United States attacked the wrong country. The president said the war caused extensive damage, but argued that a new economic partnership could establish a more productive relationship between Washington and Baghdad. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar praised President Trump's leadership in confronting Iran and expanding regional diplomacy. Saar credited Trump with taking decisive action against Iran's nuclear and military capabilities while supporting new economic and security agreements. Israel is also participating in Secretary of State Marco Rubio's international meeting on transnational political violence. Domestic politics. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham has died following a ruptured aorta connected to chronic heart disease. President Trump says he has seen no evidence of foul play. The FBI reviewed the circumstances because of Graham's position and the sudden nature of his death. Graham had recently returned from Ukraine and was deeply involved in defense, sanctions, and foreign policy legislation. Darlene Graham Norton-Tausch has been sworn into the United States Senate to complete her late brother's term. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster appointed her with President Trump's support. Norton becomes the first woman to represent South Carolina in the Senate and will serve through January. A special election will determine who receives the next full term. Senate Majority Leader J. Owen Thune paid tribute to Lindsey Graham while urging senators to continue work on the legislation Graham supported. Graham played a leading role in national defense, judicial confirmations, sanctions against Russia, and support for Israel. His death leaves vacancies on several powerful Senate committees as Republicans work to maintain their legislative schedule. Kentucky Governor Andy B. Scheer is challenging state restrictions, preventing him from appointing a temporary replacement if Senator Mitch McConnell's seat becomes vacant. McConnell has been receiving inpatient treatment following a fall and pneumonia, but says he intends to complete his term. Bessier has asked McConnell to provide a public video or interview addressing his condition. Senate Majority Leader John Thune is calling for a prompt confirmation process for Jay Clayton, President Trump's nominee for Director of National Intelligence. Clayton previously served as chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission and as U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. The Senate Intelligence Committee must complete its review before a confirmation vote. President Trump is also urging Republican senators to confirm Todd Blanche as Attorney General. Trump praised Blanche's performance as acting Attorney General and called for a unified Republican vote. Blanche previously served as Trump's defense attorney before joining the Justice Department and must receive Senate approval to continue serving in the position permanently. House Republican leaders used the Air weekly press conference to warn about the growing influence of socialism and communism in American politics. Speaker Mike Johnson, Conference Chair Lisa McClain, and Congressman Carlos Gimenez argued that centralized government control threatens private property, individual liberty, and free enterprise. The message will form part of the Republican campaign strategy heading into the midterm elections. Republican leaders have reached an agreement with conservative holdouts who repeatedly blocked procedural votes in the House. The dispute centered on federal spending, defense funding, and demands to advance election legislation. The agreement allows House business to resume while negotiations continue over spending reductions, border enforcement, and the inclusion of the Save America Act in must-pass legislation. The House voted 308 to 117 to make daylight saving time permanent. The Sunshine Protection Act would end the twice-yearly clock change and provide more evening daylight during winter. States already observing permanent standard time could remain exempt. The legislation now moves to the Senate, where previous versions have stalled. Supreme Court Justices Amy Coney Barr, ROETT, and Elena Kagan made a rare appearance before Congress to request additional security funding. Barrett described being sent home in a bulletproof vest and a swatting incident involving her family. Kagan said documented threats are projected to increase 38% this year. The court is requesting nearly $15 million for additional protection. Writer E. Jean Carroll has received APER. Zemately $5.6 million from funds President Trump placed in a court-controlled account. The payment follows a 2023 civil jury verdict finding Trump liable for sexual abuse and defamation. Trump continues to deny Carroll's accusations. A separate $83.3 million defamation judgment remains under appeal. The Treasury Department has unveiled $100 bills carrying the signatures of President Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. The notes are being introduced as America celebrates its 250th anniversary. Benjamin Franklin's portrait and the currency's major security features remain unchanged. Additional denominations containing the new signatures are expected to enter circulation later.
At shop.isitwaya.com, everything you buy supports Qn.top, the place where people talk freely no matter what. Check out our Qn Honey Pot, a jar of yummy honey that's as strong as your voice. Put it on toaster and tea. It's not just honey, it's freedom in every bite. Then there's Qn Butter, a smooth handmade skin cream that makes you feel good while you fight for what's right. Awesome wood and pieces for display only. Hang them up or set them out. They're for showing off Qn's tough spirit. Want to help even more? Get a proto membership. So go to shop.isitwaya.com now and grab some goodies. Help Qn.top keep free speech alive, and let's keep the ideas flowing loud and free.
All reports can be found on QResearch or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Board's July 15, 2026, Economy and National Infrastructure. The annual inflation rate fell from 4.2% in May to 3.5% in June. Consumer prices declined 0.4% during the month, led by a 5.7% drop in energy costs. Gasoline prices fell 9.7%, while core inflation remained unchanged. Food and shelter costs continued increasing, but at slower rates than earlier in the year. Federal Reserve Chairman Kevin Warsh told Congress that the central bank has no tolerance for persistently high inflation. Warsh said successful monetary policy could make the inflation surge of the past 5 years a thing of the past. He provided no direct signal about the next interest rate decision and pledged to protect the Federal Reserve's independence from political pressure. PJM Interconnection, operator of America's largest electrical grid, fell 6.8 gigawatts short of its reliability target during its latest capacity auction. Rapidly expanding data centers are driving electricity demand, while new generating capacity remains limited. Capacity prices reach the regulatory ceiling, increasing the likelihood of higher customer bills and power shortages during periods of extreme demand. A study examining American stocks from 1926 through 2025 found that only 27.6% outperformed the broader market. Nearly 60% reduced overall shareholder wealth, while the median stock produced a negative lifetime return. American equities still created approximately $91 trillion in wealth, with only 46 companies responsible for roughly half of that total. Election integrity. President Trump says he will deliver really big news during a Thursday address centered on election integrity. The president said free and fair elections are essential to the survival of the country. The White House says the address will also cover additional national issues, while election security proposals are expected to form the central portion of the announcement. The House voted 215 to 211 to approve a procedural resolution connecting the Save America Act to must-pass legislation. The proposal requires documentary proof of citizenship for federal voter registration and creates additional verification procedures. Supporters say the measure has approximately 50 Senate votes and are pressing Republican leaders to secure the additional support required for final passage. Records released by Senators Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson show that former special counsel Jack Smith's investigative team reviewed text messages involving 44 members of Congress. The communications were obtained from government devices used by Trump administration officials. Grassley says investigators bypassed the Justice Department's required privilege screening process before examining messages involving Republican and Democratic lawmakers. Senator Rick Scott is calling for Jack Smith and members of his investigative team to testify before Congress. Scott says investigators must explain why messages involving 44 lawmakers were examined and why the department's privilege protections were not completed first. The Senate Judiciary Committee is preparing to review the investigation as part of its Justice Department oversight responsibilities. Evidence presented in Fulgham v. Ware includes an original 2020 Georgia ballot and a duplicated version that the plaintiffs say was improperly created. The material was presented to the Ware County Superior Court as part of a broader challenge involving ballot handling and election procedures. The court will examine the documents, testimony, and chain of custody before issuing its findings. Canadian national Denis Bouchard was sentenced to 2 months in federal prison after falsely claiming American citizenship to vote in North Carolina. Federal records show Bouchard registered and voted in 9 federal elections between 2004 and 2024, despite never becoming a citizen. Prosecutors say the case demonstrates the importance of verifying eligibility and enforcing federal voting laws. The America First Policy Institute is also examining the history of federal gun control laws and their effect on constitutional rights. The organization argues that some of America's earliest firearm restrictions were designed to prevent disfavored groups from owning weapons. The policy discussion connects historical enforcement practices with current legal battles involving the Second Amendment and federal regulatory authority. International developments. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is hosting representatives from more than 60 countries for an international meeting on transnational political violence. The summit will focus on intelligence sharing and coordinated action against organizations using violence across national borders. The administration is emphasizing far-left extremist networks and has invited senior officials from Europe, Asia, and the Western Hemisphere. Russia and Ukraine exchanged another series of long-range missile and drone attacks. Russia says it struck Ukrainian drone and missile production facilities, while Ukraine reported damage to civilian, industrial, and port infrastructure. Ukrainian forces also launched a major drone campaign against Russian shipping in the Sea of Azov, disrupting vessels used to transport fuel, cargo, and military supplies. European leaders continue debating negotiations over the war in Ukraine. Russian officials argue that Europe cannot play a meaningful role while excluding Moscow from discussions. European governments remain divided over sanctions, military assistance, and the conditions required for peace talks. Fighting continues as both Russia and Ukraine attempt to strengthen their positions before any formal negotiations begin. The European Parliament voted 418 to 218 for legislation intended to accelerate migrant returns and establish designated return hubs. The vote produced heated exchanges and chants of "send them back" inside the chamber. Supporters described the legislation as necessary immigration enforcement, while the confrontation exposed widening divisions over migration throughout Europe. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is restructuring his senior staff. Scott Gilmore will become Principal Secretary, while Maya Johnson will add the position of Chief Operating Officer to her responsibilities involving Canada-United States relations. The changes follow several staff departures and Senate appointments, and allow Carney to establish his own leadership structure inside the Prime Minister's office. A Canadian immigration case involving Delroy Apple is drawing national attention after reports that he accumulated 39 criminal convictions. Apple entered Canada as a protected person based on persecution claims involving his sexual orientation. His record includes sexual assault, armed robbery, assault with a weapon, and offenses against police. Immigration authorities are reviewing his continued detention and removal status. The documentary All About the Money examines James Fergie Chambers, a former heir to the Cox family's multi-billion-dollar media fortune. Chambers received an estimated payout of at least $250 million and used his wealth to support communist organizations and political projects. The film focuses on the conflict between his inherited capitalist wealth and his anti-capitalist activism.
Don'tDeleteMeBro.com. 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 Share the site with others. Don'tDeleteMeBro.com. 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 Share the site with others. Don'tDeleteMeBro.com.
Start your day right with Ahoy the Ship Show, where real talk meets real energy. No fluff, no filter, just stories, opinions, and moments that matter. Catch us live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Your daily launch point for what you need to know, and a few things you didn't. Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. Switch gears with Night Owl News Archives. A laid-back dive into the week's biggest headlines and hidden gems. Miss a show? Visit Don'tDeleteMeBro.com for notes, highlights, and extras. Tap in or get left behind.
All reports can be found on QResearch or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open-source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here. From the Q Research Boards, July 15, 2026, Crime and Public Safety. Federal prosecutors have indicted 3 Russian nationals and 2 companies accused of operating computer infrastructure used by international cybercriminals. Authorities say the bulletproof hosting services supported ransomware, phishing, malware, and attacks against hospitals, schools, and banks. The criminal activity caused more than $62 million in losses. A reward of up to $10 million is being offered for information. More than 40 gang members and associates from Newburgh and Poughkeepsie, New York, have received federal prison sentences. The cases involved racketeering, attempted murder, narcotics trafficking, and firearms offenses. Multiple investigations targeted violent street organizations operating throughout the Hudson Valley and disrupted trafficking networks responsible for years of violence in surrounding communities. Former Hinesville Housing Authority Executive Director Melanie Thompson and Toriano Bird have been indicted in a federal fraud case. Thompson faces conspiracy, 19 wire fraud counts, and 2 counts involving false claims. Prosecutors say the defendants used housing authority transactions and federal funds for unlawful financial benefit while Thompson held a position of public trust. A Scottish jury has convicted 35-year-old Gabriel Brown of murdering Joseph Johnston. Prosecutors say Brown stabbed Johnston 22 times, removed and consumed one of his fingers, and set fires inside the victim's home. Brown claimed that he was influenced by the spirit of occultist Aleister Crowley, but the jury rejected that defense. Sentencing will follow additional court reports. British counter-terrorism police are investigating the killing of former lawmaker Anne Widdecombe as a targeted political attack. A 28-year-old man has been arrested under terrorism legislation. Investigators are examining left-wing, anarchist, and single-issue extremist motives. Widdecombe was found dead inside her southwest England home after suffering serious injuries, and police believe the suspect acted alone. Federal Judge John E. Steele ordered the supervised release of Cuban national Michael Guerra Morales, while immigration authorities pursue deportation.